Welcome to Community Church Unitarian Universalist. I'm your worship associate, Michelle Firestone, and as always, it's a joy to be with you this morning. Community Church is a progressive, open-minded, and inclusive religious community. We welcome all who are on a spiritual search for truth and meaning. Ours is a faith in action as we do the work of social justice and elevate compassion in our quest to live ethically, recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of every being. Please look to your weekly email for announcements. I've got a couple of announcements from Reverend Jacqueline, who's not feeling well this morning. After the service in the fellowship hall, Paige, our bookkeeper, is going to be helping people load Breeze onto their phones. Breeze is the program we use for handling donations and things, and then the directory for the church. So she'll be here in the fellowship hall afterwards. And then also next Saturday, Reverend Jacqueline will be holding a new to CCUU class at her home. Look for Community Matters announcement for more information on that. We are delighted to welcome back into our pulpit this morning, Reverend Jim Vanderweel. Reverend Jim was a longtime 15-year minister here at CCUU, especially important because he helped rebuild this church following Katrina. He was here from 2002 to 2017. Yep, he was raised in Iowa, went to Pella Christian High School, graduated in 1967, and was married a year later that was before Roe v. Wade. He has 3 children and 6 grandchildren. Graduated from the University of Iowa in 1997 and from Meadville Lombard Theological School in 2000. He was the interim minister at Sugarloaf Unitarian UU, Germantown, Maryland, from 2000 to 2002, before coming to CCUU from 2002 to 2017. And then he was interim minister at Northlake UU from 2017 to 2019. He currently resides in Baton Rouge and enjoys his life with Shirley Peak, studying, reading authors and writers with intriguing insights on our cosmos, solar system, Earth, Native Americans, history, and more. And we are thrilled to have him with us this morning. And now, for our opening words, Reverend Jim.
Thank you, Michelle, for your kind words of introduction. It's a joy to be back here on a Sunday morning. Just to see so many of you again is truly a delight. Some of you who I've visited with for a while but never seen in person are here, and that's also quite a privilege. I also want to thank the Reverend Jacqueline Luck for inviting me to be here today, as well as for her message that came in 2011 to all of the Unitarian Universalist ministers in Mississippi and Louisiana to consider doing a service on evolution. She gently suggested that many of our country's congregations either ignored or derided the very concept of evolution and considered it important for our society as we move forward. I agreed, and we began to hold services here on evolution early in the year in 2011 and continued until 2017. Reverend Jacqueline was an instigator of that idea. But the opening words are from Joseph Campbell. And Joseph Campbell was a major influence to me before I decided to study for the ministry. His books and lectures soothed my soul. He lightened my concerns about stepping away from creedal traditions and offered an incentive to focus on world religions as an element of my course of study. In Joseph Campbell's final book, The Inner Reaches of Outer Space, he says, "We are productions of this earth. We are, as it were, its organs. Our eyes are the eyes of this earth. Our knowledge is the earth's knowledge. And the earth, as we now know, is a production of space." Let's join in singing Chaliswa. Is there anyone here who really loves mathematics? Okay. Good. Here in the Americas, the Native Americans had a tremendous capacity to use and interpret mathematical problems. The Olmec built cities, roads, and even pyramids before they had the equipment we have today to move around those big stones, etc. The Mayans used their mathematical skills by developing a sacred calendar, keeping time with calendar systems, several of them composed of wheels in wheels. Their most common calendar, the Tzolk'in, is still considered sacred in Central America by the Olmec, Mayan, Toltec, and Aztec nations, as well as by the Navajo, Zuni, and Cherokee in the United States at this time. The cog wheel in this pic of their sacred calendar features two connected wheels. As time moved on, each day would yield to the next day. Each of these moved around by a peg joining the two of them. The 13-point wheel on the left and the 20-point sign wheel on the right were both stepping forward one spot each day. So now we come to our math question. If you multiply by 13 times 20, what do you get? 260. And 260 is the length of time that it takes to move this calendar all the way around. But there's more than that to it, you see, because they had a number of calendars. This is one calendar set up for today. It's in a European number system, 1901-2025. And the number and the day sign are shown on the left at the bottom. And there are two additional factors on the right of it. It is very difficult to display all of this on a computer, so the best way that they did this, given modern technology, is to put it all into one calendar and one system. We don't need to discuss the other two numbers. Let's just move on a little bit to the next look at this. Here we see the 260-day count in the 20-row calendar and the 13-column cycle, and it's counted out from 1 to 260 on this calendar. One interesting feature of this chart is that there are still local coverings from the sages and their shaman, from their calendar watchers, that features the impact of people at the time of their birth. We might want to go look and see when this building was dedicated as part of that, or for today, January 19, 2025. The pyramids that they built were amazing and are amazing. They were designed because of a sacred character, the intensity of religion in their communities. One of the ways they displayed this was by building pyramids based on their concepts of what might happen. Now, many of these pyramids were hidden in the jungle until LIDAR found them beneath the trees in the last few years. The Palenque pyramid notes a place of creation occurred in 3115 BCE, but its timing refers to another calendar, the long calendar. And I'm going to get to a bit of that a bit later. For now, seeing no people under the age of 21, I don't think here. Maybe so, but no religious education, children. I thank you for paying the time and taking the attention to this. I hope it is useful as we go forward. Oh, okay. All right. Well, I hope it's useful for all of you who had the chance to view it. And it is part of what we will be discussing today, the long calendar in evolution.
This reading is from it's called Community Shaped by Myths from Joseph Campbell. A mythology is a control system. On the one hand, framing its community to accord with an intuited order of nature, and on the other hand, by means of its symbolic pedagogic rites, conducting individuals through the inevitable psychophysiological stages of transformation of a human lifetime: birth, childhood and adolescence, age, old age, and the release of death, in unbroken accord, simultaneously with the requirements of this world and the rapture of participation in a matter of being beyond time. Now is our sacred time of joys and sorrows. If you are online, you may write your joys and sorrows in the comments section to be read aloud. In person, you may write them on one of the cards to be passed out by our greeters. Please remain seated as we sing hymn number 111, Life of Ages. From Will, I suppose this is somewhat of a joy. For tomorrow, I am making it a point to set aside some time to not watch the inauguration. From Scott, the joy of being extended a contract as the official boxing coach of the New Orleans Athletic Club. Praying and intentioning, this will become my new vocation. Good, congratulations, Scott. And we'll light a candle for Jim and Vera. Unfortunately, Jim wanted to make it this morning, but Vera's sitter had to cancel, so they weren't able to make it this morning. And
I'd like to express sorrow. I'm not sure how many, this is in the newspapers on the front page. For the Super Bowl, they've been rounding up the homeless and putting them in a camp. And when they got there, there was no heat, no food, and no beds. The place is surrounded in barbed wire. I encountered a man who escaped from there by joining a woman who was having withdrawal in the hospital on the way to get out. But that's the only way he could escape. And there are people who are confined there. He was forced into a bus on threat of arrest. And this is on France Street. I'm not really sure what we're supposed to do about this other than just kind of go make sure they're not running a concentration camp. But yeah, just something to be aware of. I know we're not a watchdog group, but maybe we could check in.
no, it's very troublesome what's happening in the name of a game, basically. And we'll light 2 more candles, one for the joys still bubbling up, too new to share, and one for the sorrows that we cannot yet put into words. Know that we hold you in our hearts.
Saprem, in his book Sri Aurobindo, or The Adventure of Consciousness, wrote this: Indians speak only of the eternal law, Sanatana Dharma, which they know is not an Indian monopoly, but belongs also to the Muslims, the Africans, the Christians, and even the Anabaptists. What seems to a Westerner to be the most important part of a religion, namely the structure that distinguishes it from other religions, insisting a person is not a Catholic or a Protestant unless he or she thinks this way or that way and subscribes to this or that articles of faith, is in effect the least important aspect for an Indian, who instinctively seeks to remove external differences in order to find everyone at the central point where all communicates. That reading leads me to our message today. Alpha flows toward Omega, evolutionary reflections. I have heard a number of Unitarian Universalist sermons that begin with an explanation of what some of the words are. a little bit of a dictionary lesson, kind of, in a way. Today, when I speak of alpha, I mean the first world in today's title. It is used in reference to a beginning, a start of life, or maybe the blossoming of algae, or a visit from the universe, be it from aliens, angels, or divinity. Flow appears in the expression being in flow, but it requires a little bit deeper thought today. I'd like you to consider the flow of water in river as an example. Flow is also a force in many areas of life. Sound flows in sound waves. Light flow can be measured out in space by light years. A vehicle flows in miles per hour. Electricity can zap you before you even know it's there. Fire also flows up and downhill, depending upon the wind. But what about toward omega? What do I mean by omega? Well, I want to thank Marianne Godshaw for her message, Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, scientist, visionary Jesuit priest, and author. If you heard her message, you maybe have some idea of an omega point. Teilhard, and this is my take, not her message, this is my take on it, considered the purpose of humanity. He wondered, why are we here? We have had warfare, we have had troubles, we have had oligarchies, but yet have been very productive during our time on earth. Why have we seen all of these blessings? Why have we produced such huge gains in science, industry, technology, more and more over time? Might there be, asked this Jesuit visionary, a divine purpose for all of these gains? This is where he considered evolution. These advances suggested to a visionary Jesuit priest that human suffering will be sloughed off when we reach an omega point, after which, leaving that omega point, the entire human family will emerge with a unified human spirit. We'll live then in a noosphere, a human move from self-reflection to an evolutionary consciousness. That's a major switch. Much of therapy has focused in the past on self-reflection. What have we done? The move to consider process, to consider evolution as a force, and particularly our relation to it, is a difficulty that has not been embraced by many in our society. A similar view of life was reached by Sri Aurobindo, a mystic philosopher, seer, and a housing developer. His father was an Indian provincial figure. He had arranged for his children to be educated in Great Britain. Evidently, he talked to a leader in the Anglican church and said, "Can you give my 3 boys," and he was sending his boys, "for education, and let them make up their own choice about religion?" And this priest had agreed. So Aurobindo was educated in Great Britain. And his partner, the mother, as she was known, had been educated in France before she followed her muse to seek out a teacher of mysticism somewhere in India, and went off and met Sri Aurobindo. The mother herself has written a number of books. I was reading these before I even considered entering ministry. I found them deep, reflective, insightful texts. The mother's two parents, one was born in Egypt and the other one, I believe, in Turkey or Iraq. She had the Muslim and heritage within her as a person, brought to the union that she and Sri Aurobindo developed there. While in school, both had learned that Western traditions highlight the division between faiths, while the Indian gurus explored the unity of all faiths. Aurobindo and the mother preferred Sanatana Dharma over the many Western theological frameworks, which all seem to carry a shadow of a condemn and destroy force within them. When they set the ashram, they invited people from all faiths from around the world to join in an effort to establish a unified human consciousness based on a mutual love and mutual support for all. And many responded to this call and took up residence in Oroville. It was more than 100 years ago that Teilhard and Aurobindo analyzed human evolution. Each of them found that humanity was in process, had not yet reached its full potential, that several evolutionary steps still lie ahead, and that it required a human awareness about these evolutionary forces before we, as humans, will be able to float toward Omega, i.e., to reach our full potential on this planet. So again, we're talking about flow. Flow is a part of process. Many of you have heard me suggest this in terms of process theology in the past, in terms of Taoist perspectives on faith. But flow rate shifts in rivers as they float downstream. In a narrow upstream course, the flow is slow. Midstream, when watersheds and creeks begin to enter it, the rate of flow picks up. And downstream, after several major rivers have joined, its rate of flow rises dramatically. Since the rate of flow increases in rivers, is it possible that flow also has an accelerating factor with time? And I do not mean here that as we get older, time seems to flow more rapidly because it's less a part of the long life that we've had. That is important. No argument with that. But I think what is more important is that for Native Americans in the United States, time has always moved in accelerating stages. And they have paid attention in their lives to where they were with regards to each of those stages. One of the primary proponents of Mayan mathematical genius is Carl Johann Kalaman, who holds a PhD in physical biology. He had been pursuing a cure for cancer at the University of Washington before he decided to chuck all of that and follow his muse and go down to Central America and engage in a deep study of the Mayan mysteries. As he states in the Mayan calendar and the transformation of consciousness, the prophetic Mayan calendar is not keyed to the movement of planetary bodies. It functions as a metaphysical map of the evolution of consciousness and records how spiritual time flows, providing a new science of time. That was what prompted him to go down to Central America, to begin to explore how time flows. The quantum evolution of consciousness. There is a possibility that, as he writes in one of his volumes, that we tend to, as humans, look at quantum from the level of being at the top of everything. But in his view, this is short-sighted. Quantum runs out into the universe as well. It's not just in the biological areas, in plant life and animal life, that we can look at quantum and what happens, what we see through microscopes. He says it's both here and there, that things can move directly, or if there's an obstacle put in place, come around and catch you up from the backside. It'll get to where it needs to go. This chart is a display about the evolution of consciousness. In it, it shows how the pyramids are built on biological evolution through its first 4 stages, and historical evolution through stages 5 to 8, and finally stage 9 capping off, and a tower from there. These are referred to as 9 worlds, or steps, in the Mayan long count calendar. This is a separate calendar than the Tzolk'in. That Mayan long count calendar ended on October 28, 2011. It shows that in the first world was the development of cells, galaxies, stars, and planets, way down at the bottom. Next world, second world, multicellular organisms. Then third, primates. Fourth, humans. Evolution, slowly, humans appearing. Symbolic evolution began a little over 100,000 years ago. The urban revolution, also called religious revolution, is 3115 BCE, about the time several of the major faiths of the world took shape. The Industrial Revolution began in 1755 CE. The Digital Revolution on January 5, 1999. This is where we, as humans, eventually evolved to the point that we were able to be in touch with people around the world. And unity consciousness began March 9, 2011, and continues through today. As a matter of fact, all of these are continuing to their work today, as time continues to move on. There are 2 important steps here to make about this, that all of the steps, 1 to 9, are split into waves. We're talking about flow. Water has waves, right? Specifically, there are 7 wave peaks and 7 wave bottoms in each of the stages. This are 7 peaks and 6 bottoms in each stage. And you can, as you look at this, you could see that it will take much longer for those 13, the 7 and the 6 together, to work out in the first wave than it did in our technical wave. Time has changed. We are doing more. More is happening here than it did years ago. Additionally, each of the steps 2 to 9 are 1/20th of the length of the previous step. That's interesting. This was mathematically precise and shared years ago in Central America. All of our planetary and human evolution is covered in this, including astronomy, biology, history, technology, and spirit. I have hit the wrong ones. Okay. The Mayan long count features 13 and 144. Its numbers are picked up in the West. The key numbers here are 13 and 144. And the ending date is October 28, 2011 of this long count. The 13 first energies are described in terms of their waves. I'm not going to deal with the nights. Those are usually unproductive periods in terms of the outflowing. But the first is sowing, germination, sprouting, proliferation in the middle, budding, flowering, and fruition in order over time. The consciousness of humanity unpacks here the sixth wave. And if we note at the first wave, and give a little on these dates, but if you see at the start of the first wave, Egypt, Acadia in 2, New Kingdom of Egypt in 3, Assyria in 4, Roman in 5, German in 6, and British US in 7. All of these were marked as key periods beforehand. And of course, this does not automatically happen, but there are some forces at play in the universe, evidently, to make some of these things happen, which is why it's referred to as quantum reality. As far as the developing of communications from 1755 to the current date, we see here the first 3 peaks are development of telegraphs. After that, radio in 1873, telephone in 1873, radio 1913, color TV 1952, and the internet in the 1990s. All of these have played out in coordination with the waves as presented in Mayan calendars. With all of this available, and with scholars around the world starting to take note of the historical significance of the native populations in this country and in the Western Hemisphere, many of today's historians and culture shifters suggest we have reached or are on the cusp of reaching an omega point. Teilhard de Chardin says that we are, as humans, flowing from a developing self-reflection to an evolutionary awareness. That's a switch in what we pay attention to as people. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once had a piece of this in a quote we can find in our hymnal. We must evolve for all human conflict a method which rejects revenge, aggression, and retaliation. The foundation of such a method is love. Amen. That spirit is a significant spirit that this congregation has felt for years. The Reverend Dr. King had a huge understanding of what was important to life in him. And so it almost feels ironic as we face together a set of unique and enigmatic circumstances we anticipate viewing in the coming week. I'm not going to spend much time on the inauguration today, and greatly appreciate that the Reverend Jane Malden invited you to participate in her excellent coverage of the inauguration last week. I know and I feel the fears and anxieties which run deep in the hearts of so many in this religious community and beyond. Yet, let me offer this for your consideration. Perhaps the path to our omega point may be waiting for the right time to appear. Perhaps a noosphere based on the spirit of love, of unity consciousness, of melding of worldviews, has not yet viewed the situation where many of our world's major governments feature the same ancient shadow of a condemn and destroy mentality. One wonders how long our world will accept that as the modus operandi. Perhaps the mind suggests we've been in the right place at the wrong time. So, and I realize that this is Martin Luther King Jr. Day Sunday, but I am here for a little bit of time with you today, and I must celebrate with you the depth and dimension of your faith and your faith community and your commitment to the words shared by the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. While many congregations are now struggling, in a world where church attention is declining, where people get these forms and they ask what your religion is, and the most common answer is now none in the United States, where attendance is down in many churches and buildings are being sold, your leadership has fought hard to step out of the day-to-day milieu and focus on holding an evolutionary view for your survival. Your survival. I have not followed much of what happened here for several years. Only the things that hit my ears clued me in to this event or that. Part of this is ministerial, respecting the tradition, to respect you, to let you manage your own affairs. There's a part of me that says, even right now, keep your mouth shut here, Jim. All of this is up to them. But in the same way that I once decided to share a message on the end of the world per the Mayan calendar and how it had not happened, with suggestions that it lacked any relevance, I will again venture on. You, my dear friends, are living in a miracle. It was you, as well as the few of you who returned post-Katrina, who viewed yourself in the eyes of a church in a flow. You understood the evolutionary process right from the beginning. You developed a careful procedure to protect yourself as you rebuilt this holy place of worship in the midst of a post-trauma reality. The miracle of this sanctuary and this congregation even being here suggests to me that you deserve every bit of credit and joy you dare to share. Your members not only chose to rebuild this precious sanctuary right here after being washed away and do it with no mortgage to carry forward and being pushed, as is said by our deep state, to bite the bullet on your bill to the architect because rules had changed and now it had to be 3 feet higher. Oh, Lord have mercy, did we cry. The wailing and the gnashing of teeth. But you did it. And then you bought a piano. And then you put up solar panels. Now updated, a community lighthouse. And then supported the folks who came here to rebuild New Orleans, no matter where they came from. And then attended parades on Elysian Fields Avenue. And then helped Kids who were born into poverty, take the instruments you had bought for them off to college in New England. And then helped young Kenyan women have a chance to go to school. I could go on and on with this. But this is a beautiful religious community in a beautiful building and very friendly folks too. Very friendly. You have done whatever you could do to do the best that you can in all situations. And I know there was a time when it was difficult to replace the Reverend Katie Korb. But that is not where we are today. We're not there no more. Are we, Wilma? Not there anymore. Time has changed. Things are moving forward. Let us keep our eyes open and let us continue. Now, I don't know if you're going to hire a minister next year or not. I didn't ask this morning either. Whatever you do, that is up to you to proceed. But if you do proceed and you are looking for a minister, please brag on yourself a little. You deserve it. I don't mean to get a big head about it, but you deserve to understand all that you have been through, and also to understand that this is a traumatic time. Interview candidates as if they truly want to be here, and support them when they come to help you grow your love. Step further into the evolutionary field and take a look at what you can continue to do to be as important to this community as you already have and are and will continue to do. Keep on building this church community under trained support and assistance. I must tell you, I am enjoying life in Baton Rouge. I do enjoy diving deeper into gardening and reading, and the days and the nights with beloved Shirley Peak. But Red Stick is not New Orleans. In my view, there may be no better place in the country to lead a Unitarian Universalist congregation than at 6690 Fleur-de-Lis Avenue, New Orleans, Louisiana. And you have friends and beloveds in this faith and outside of it with whom you can join hands and you can get together and you can be Baptists if you want to, and praise the Lord for everything that you have received. Whatever course you follow in the days to come, my prayer for you is that those of us who are older, like me now, have greater strength, have great strength, that you'll be kind to those who are younger, and that you'll be able to continue your path as your analytical self-reflection flows into the omega point, and you join with others in a noosphere where the love in your hearts engenders love in the hearts of everyone that you meet. So may it be. Namaste. Namaste. Namaste.
Thank you, Jim.
Community Church Unitarian Universalist is a self-sustaining congregation. Members and friends' generosity help us do the sacred work of bringing justice, spirituality, and compassion to our community and beyond. You can give online, by text, or in person this morning. See the information on the back of your order of service. Please remain seated for our offertory hymn number 318, We Would Be One.
Our benediction from Desmond Tutu. My humanity is bound up in yours, for we can only be human together. So may it be. Closing hymn.
The closing hymn is number 1017. 1017 in your teal hymnal.
Please join in the words of extinguishing our chalice printed in your order of service. We extinguish the chalice here that it might glow gently in our hearts. May it light your path as you leave this place. May it guide your way until we are together again. Please join us in the fellowship hall for coffee and king cake, I think we have this morning.
Yeah. It was like we had the training for that, but still, both of them were difficult.